Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best magic build for Ifan Ben-Mezd in Divinity Original Sin 2. Now he honestly works great with some summoning because he does have his Soul Wolf here, which is not that great. However, it's good for tanking if your Incarnate form goes down. Now I do have a physical build which I'll have linked in the comments, but honestly as a support character he does do a great job. Summoner type characters have a tough time doing damage because they're typically going to be summoning in their Incarnate on this first turn of combat and then elemental totems every turn after. This means that we do have some nice support skills, and I actually think it's best to use some of the other skills here like Living on the Edge, which lets you stay alive, or one of your other teammates, and then you can pair this with Last Rites if you need to do a revive on a teammate without going down, and then you could also use Shackles of Pain to target someone massively. Our skills will range in different support abilities here, and with this team composition I'm going to do a video on it soon, with fire surfaces or ice or even blood surfaces. You got lots of options here for your Incarnate depending on what you want, if you want more heals or more damage. And then we also have those elemental totems that we can raise each turn. We'll go with the fire one here for the extra damage that it brings. Now these will just automatically shoot at everyone every time they have a turn. And after that, we typically want to use a power infusion on our Incarnate champion here, and then also maybe the Farsight if you got the AP for it. And this will just continually shoot at enemies each turn. And then our Incarnate, I went with the healing version. It has restoration, which is nice if you need some extra support here. And it does have some physical attacks, which are going to do water damage, which is great because we got a magic-focused team. So it's crazy with this. It just shredded it down. And then it can get moves like Battering Ram here, which is nice because you can start knocking other targets around like that. Now, this build's mostly going to be in Act 2 and into Act 3 here. Summoning is our main skill. We want to get this to 10 as soon as possible. This is going to rake up our Incarnate form there. Now our attributes are actually kind of interesting here because we do need a good amount of memory, but since we don't have damage spells, intelligence doesn't really benefit us much unless we want to get out of our Hydrosophist here. So honestly, just go with the points for your stats, whatever, or for your gear. So I have 12 intelligence to equip robes here. You can go with the finesse route depending on what you get for drops. Constitution sucks in this game, I'm gonna be honest, but on this build, it's all right, because with a high constitution, this gives you more health. We're kind of the support tank style character. We're basically just summoning all the time, and we want to stay alive because we have so many ways to revive our teammates, heal our teammates, and just be able to sustain. And I found that around 23 memory was good for around this level, just depending on the skills that you want to have prepared. But as mentioned, summoning is our main ability here because this is going to give them more vitality, damage, physical armor, and magical armor. So get this up to 10 as quickly as possible, and then whatever gear bonuses you can get from that. I also like to have a bit of necromancy here, and I'll explain why in a moment. But Hydrosophist is great here because our healing spells don't actually scale off of our intelligence. That impacts our damage, but the level in Hydrosophist here is going to give us more healing and more magic armor restoration, which is nice because we got our team kind of set up around that, and some of the skills actually do combine here and make a pretty good team. I also like to go with some necromancy here. This gives us some sustain since our constitution's high. Being able to heal ourselves whenever we deal damage, if we deal damage, is nice. However, we're mostly going with necromancy just for the spells to be able to revive our teammates and do crazy amounts of damage to the enemy as well. Our talents are important because elemental affinity is just so good here, so this will lower the action point cost. If we have another teammate on our team, and I do have a Losa build, which is using both water and arrow spells, you can stand on the water that she sets up, and then you can get some cheaper spells here. It's kind of nice, but Far Out Man is also great. This lets us set up our summons in a larger area of effect, which is really nice. This is the first one to cut, though, if you want to use other ones. I actually think that a good combination here is to go with our elemental affinity Far Out Man. If you're doing more damage casting, Savage Sword Edge is good, but it's not actually like applicable to this build. I like the Hothead though for a bit of extra accuracy. You can cut these all out and go full in on your survivability though, with Far Out Man for increasing the range so you're safe, Living Armor for 35% of all healing you receive to be able to apply to your magic armor, and we have like the Soulmate ability, which can make this actually insane. Early game mnemonic can be great to be able to prepare more spells. We can also go with the Morning Person here. Whenever you get resurrected, you get back to full health, but we're going to be focusing on keeping our team alive and not going down. So again, Living Armor and Far Out Man good. The Comeback Kit is interesting. It doesn't actually work with that because this doesn't put us down, but this is still nice because it basically gives us an extra 20% health for survivability's sake. And other options are All Skilled Up, the Bigger and Better for extra attributes, or putting points into our either Summoning or Hydrosophist here. And I also like the 5-star Diner. This is actually kind of crazy later on in the game. If you're metagaming, this doubles the effects of food and potions. You can get some crazy resistances going with this. But if you're looking for something all skilled up or the Bigger and Better, nice, because with this, we can then go ahead and take another ability point, which we can then put into our Hydrosophist here, or more points into our Summoning. We max that out. I have a +7 from gear. Now I'm going to explain the Necromancer spells first here. This is more so for utility. We're not doing like damage with this outside of like Shackles of Pain, but Living on the edge for 2 turns, you basically can't get reduced to below 1 health point, so you just stay alive. This is even crazier when we pair with Last Rites because you can deal damage to yourself, 500, and this will resurrect a teammate with their max vitality. What's also crazy about that is you can take that damage and apply it to somebody with the Shackles of Pain. So these 3 are here just for the crazy amounts of extra sustain you bring to your team by resurrecting. Another kind of funny one is Soulmate, because you can bind yourself to a target character, copying your healing and armor restoration you receive. This is a clear, frozen, stun, knockdown, petrified. This is good for picking up your teammates if they get hit with this. But what's great about Soulmate is it actually does apply to some of the harder boss fights, like the Alice fight, where you can pop this on the enemy and start chugging potions and still end up taking a ton of damage from this. So Soulmate's actually a very underrated skill. I'll go into the Hydrosophist here. So the Armor of Frost, this is just great for being able to give magic armor, but if you have a teammate that ends up frozen or stunned and petrified, use this on them. 1 action point, it frees them. It's worth it. Soothing Cold's great, a large area of effect, and you can restore magic armor for your teammates. It's not much, but if you have nothing else to do, it's not bad. I also like the Healing Ritual here, which will then give a wave through your teammates, which is just good for sustain. You're not always going to be using it, but it's an option. Cleanse Wounds also a pretty good one, so this can create a water puddle as well. So if you have another Hydrosophist on your team, which I do, it helps out with them. This also removes any of those negative effects and will heal them for a decent amount. I also have the Restoration here for a single action point heal for 2 turns. Not a bad option, especially if a target is bleeding or poisoned. And then Arcane Stitch. I like this for just having the full restoration of magic armor. Only good if you have a team that's kind of set up for that, so it's not always recommended. You can take it off and go with some other options there. But there's quite a few good options for any of these Hydra spells. Like the Cryogenic Stasis is nice if someone ends up getting Shackles of Pain and they're about to go down. You can pop this, and this will protect them there. I don't really like to take the damage spells here, and Rain I have covered from somebody else on my team. If you do have points in the Aerothurge, you can take things like Nether Swap here for Aerothurge level 2 and Teleportation. These 2 spells are really nice in conjunction with each other. And you can even, if you want to, grab the Ice Infusion here. This is a Hydrosophist summoning skill. This isn't like the best, it's going to need 2 source points, so I don't think it's really that amazing for what you get out of it, but it's an option. In fact, for source skills, the Door to Eternity is pretty nice, which will give your totems and your summons basically immortality here for 3 turns, which is pretty nuts. So this can be pretty good if you need a final push there and your team's about to go down. Now, for all of the different spells that we have here, I actually also like to have the Summon Inner Demon here. This is good, it gives you a bit of magic armor, low cost, and it gives you some crowd control options here. This is kind of like a last resort you can pop at any moment. But our setup spells are going to be using Conjure Incarnate on our first turn of combat. You pick an element depending on what's around for combat, so I actually prefer not to go first in combat, maybe second. However, you can go with some of the other infusions here, and there's some that are also like a low cost without source points if you want, but it's better to summon them on the ground that you want. I also I should mention too, Warfare here. This gives us a mobility option. We actually have 2 mobility options here because we're support. We're not really frontlining damage. Phoenix Dive is nice though if you have other pyros. This can set up fire surfaces for them to use their elemental affinity, but it can also be used for you to summon in your Incarnate and get them the fireball there. And on top of that, it's just good because you can also provide support for your team. Tactical Retreat is a good cost. It's a 1 action point cost. You get it back on your next turn, so pretty useful for just the movement and mobility you get from that. Alongside the Incarnate though, we're going to be using the Elemental Totem here. This is pretty much a thing you're going to use every single turn because it's just going to do consistent damage. It doesn't last a long time, but if you have the Doors to Eternity, you can make it stick around a little bit longer, which is kind of nice because you can continually keep piling up extra damage, and it's great. Now, the options for infusions, there's 4 that I would like to use typically. Power Infusion is always going to be the first one you do. This increased damage and also gives you a Whirlwind and a Rush attack, which is great. I also like, depending if you're at range or not, you're typically going to want to throw your Incarnate close range to use Power Infusement, but if you had to put them at the back line, Farsight Infusement gives them a ranged attack and further increases their attack. Typically, on your first turn, it's Incarnate and Totem, and if someone gave you haste, you can then use something like the Power Infusion or Farsight Infusion there to be able to buff them up a bit, and then apply the other buff on the next turn. Warp Infusion is good too for being able to swap places, but a bit situational, as is the Shadow Infusion, which makes them more of a stealthier version, which is okay. I like to have these just as an option, but you're typically going to use your power and your Farsight. I already mentioned Soulmate, but this is really good for being able to heal your team up, but also against certain bosses, as mentioned, because you can use healing potions and just drain them, undead in particular. Dominate Mind is an interesting one, so basically this can charm targets non-allied characters into joining your side, does about 3 action point cost, which does interfere with our other summons, but it's a cool choice. Dimensional Bolt's okay if you want some damage. This is based on our intelligence, so we don't do much. And really, there's better skills and focuses for us. Even the Cannibalize is a good choice. This will restore target's vitality based on whatever you're going to remove from. So you can destroy a totem or a summon and then heal your team with it. It's a nice option for just some extra survivability sake. I also want to mention the Bone Widow. Now, it can't be at the same time as our Incarnate or our Soul Wolf, but it's still decent of an option if you want to be more of a physical team, but I do have a build for a physical summoner on my channel. But Ifan's Soul Wolf is not amazing. The thing is, whenever you summon this in, it's going to be good for drawing aggro. So if your Incarnate end up going down, you can pop this and it's going to protect the team. But as far as all special abilities go, it's kind of the weakest. Now, as far as gear goes too, you can go for crit rate, but honestly, health is kind of the one that I'm moving towards. At level 13 here, we got about 1,200 health. It's a little bit more than our other teammates that have like 600. So we're there to stay alive, and this one is 500. Basically, we want to get into a fight and be positioned in a spot that we can protect our team and heal them back and revive them if need be. Healing's not really the best of the action economy here, but we have a high magic armor of 800, so we're not going to get crowd controlled too often, and we can always teleport away if we need to. But yeah, you're typically looking for summoning number 1. I would actually say that probably a Hydrosophist is the second highest. Also, getting some constitution is nice and overall health. We don't care a crazy amount about our critical rate since we're not going to be attacking, but we still have a pretty high crit rate. And we got, for our weapon, I'm using a stat or a wand here, mostly just for the extra accuracy and then also being able to set up surfaces. And we also have a shield on here. There's a lot of better shields, but this has reflect, which is nice to have. You know, at the start of combat, I would actually recommend if you have someone with a fire surface set up, it's best for us to summon in our Incarnate and a fire surface so that they get the bonus damage off. Now, I actually didn't end up having, I got someone to apply haste, so what I can actually do is use the Phoenix Dive here so we can get a little extra mobility. I wouldn't recommend diving right in like this, but I wanted to summon my Incarnate here on the fire surface so that I can use the fire-based attack, so we can pop this down right here. It's coming in with some extra damage. It will at start have Fireball here, which actually does a pretty good amount of damage. And then we're also going to summon down our totem right here so that it can go ahead with attacking. And our totem's just going to fire away at the closest target there. And then we have our summon here, which we can use a fireball. That just really depends on our positioning, but what's great about fireball is that it's going to set up a surface as well, so we can continually keep putting things down in that area. And we're right here, so we can do the melee attack. That's why I wanted to jump right into that. Now in our second turn, the thing is, we want to be buffing up our Incarnate here, so we got some things like the Power Infusement, that's just going to give us more damage, and an extra attack here. And as mentioned, I also like to throw on the Fire Sight, especially on turn 2, because this is going to give it that range attack that it gets. And then we're typically going to be summoning in our totems every single turn. You can put them on a water surface, or you can put them on like a blood surface, depending on what you want. There's even ice surface here, so I'm going to pull this one out here and just throw that down. The ice surfaces are kind of funny. And if we need to, we have Tactical Retreat, which is a nice option because that lets us use some extra skills on our next turn. And then you can always look around. If anyone needs some healing, we're the kind of person to do that. So Sabine here needs a bit of extra healing, and I can't reach her with the AOA, but that was not ideal, but we got the regeneration off on her regardless. And our ice thing missed. What's fun is there's a lot of water around. You can use contamination and then end up making it explode and turn into fire, which is pretty nice. And our Incarnate's attack of opportunity got the knockout there. Pretty crazy stuff. And we got another knockout with their totem there, so that's the nice thing about it. Now we got our ability, our creature here all buffed up, so it has the whirlwind attack. It's got a battering ram for some mobility. It's got this throwing attack. Unfortunately, we're not in a great position here. We don't get hit by fire, it actually heals us, so it's great to actually stand on fire. We do have a low ground here, we'll do that attack there because it's going to straight through his health, and then we'll position ourselves to potentially reach our target next turn, so yeah, that's fine. We'll then go ahead with another totem, surprise, surprise. Again, you want to be putting these in positions where they're going to have an easy access to hitting a target, and if you really want to go crazy, you can use the Soulmate and heal yourself up. So this is actually a crazy combo. Soulmate plus a large potion if you have a bunch of these around. I only have a couple at the moment, but you can use that for a massive heal to 2 targets or to keep your Incarnate alive. So that is a good choice. And then you also get the magic armor as well from our living armor. And we got another kill with our totem there, just firing away. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. I ended up walking by accident to end my turn. And the thing is, we have so many summons out right now that are just doing a bunch of damage. If we wanted to, we could use our source skill, and then our source skill would actually be keeping them alive even longer. I'm just going to skip everyone. You can see here, the Incarnate is now going to be rushing ahead. The battering ram skill is so good on it because then you can just knock a target down or just end them just like that. So that is a crazy Ifan Ben-Mezd build in Divinity Original Sin 2. If this was useful, please hit the subscribe button below. You guys all have a great day, and we'll catch you all in the next video.